Rabbi Litzman. Machster, Rabbi Litzman. Good morning. Rabbi Litzman, what's Machster? You see this? You see this pair of shoes? You saw them all have this.
You know what I was thinking of?
Oh, what are you thinking about?
I was thinking about your car.
Michael, wow, be a rich.
Which one? The fancy?
Because of his car.
Why is he driving?
Alright?
What kind of car is he driving?
Lexus.
Huh?
Oh, thanks.
Alexis.
You are driving a BMW.
No, as a best man.
During the Second World War,
Uh-huh.
the Japanese became allied with the Germans.
Uh-huh.
Their brains had to figure out how to save how the Japanese are part of the German people now.
Aha. Kom, dat is gelijk.
Doe.
Van boos, als ik de kent toch een best als ik. The war you have to look at war. This is a remote control camera, a spy camera. Opens up automatic, gives a zoom. It's a special camera. Kijk eens zoveel. You might somebody's gonna pop up with it.
Yeah. All the jokes are now all over the internet.
Yeah. It's live. Right now it's live. It's Lebedik.
Lebedik. Aha. Lebedik.
You
Ding
have to
dong.
stand here and you have to wait.
Yeah. Stay though. Look at this. This is no. You see the little screen? This. You're good to go. Oh, it's good. I put a sweater.
I looked up the link to the hotel disappeared. You took it away.
No.
Yesterday I was able to look at it. It looks like America.
South America? No.
No, it looks like America.
Yeah, there's a lot of mountains.
No, I was thinking about the hotel. Wyndham,
This is the side.
yes, I saw it yesterday.
Oh yeah, there is a model. You managed to make a trip, so book your name. Let's reserve the room. You're gonna sleep another 17 hours on a plane. How is the time? Here, I just sent it. They want to know the website too? The website name. What do you mean? You're a young guy. In 120 years we sleep. Right now we have to talk. Who sleeps? I don't need more than 4 hours. Who sleeps? No. Americans don't believe. You want to send that?
I translate based on your paper hotel.
How much?
This money here is called
They calling it the KZK. Yes. 24,000 a night.
It translates to $104.
No, but we rented the whole hotel, so it costs a little cheaper. Like 400 rooms. But it's a gorgeous hotel. The mountain view. It looks like Las Vegas. No. The weather is like Las Vegas.
You've been there?
It's my 7th year. 7 years.
7 years.
7 years ago.
Good morning.
Same place?
Oh yeah. Clean, safe. You won't find a cigarette butt on a boat. It's safer than most.
Multiple cups.
Kazakhstan. Huh? Rabbi.
I feel it.
4 days.
It's so good.
It's 11. I mean, now the price went up over there. It used to be 800. Now it's $1,100. Round trip. Area grain. No, so what's the about? It'll be about 800,000 people from all over. 700, 800, maybe more. You know, it's a huge catering, the meat with the, is everything.
They have this year around there.
Yeah. No, there's a sleep there, there's guys learning there. It's a small deal of 10,000 Jews. Used to be a lot of They somehow by life, before the war, they were supposed to go to Siberia. So somehow the minimum privilege from the Jacobson, the weather is much nicer. Whatever left right away with his mother before the war, as the war started. And his father was already in jail. So he never said sorry.
Yeah.
Whatever was the business of fun, I was rewarded for 500 back. I mean, I'm older than 70, so people go
When
into
you
the
read,
for
when you read the memoirs from Rabbi's mother, that he sent her husband was terrified. Very well.
This is a better climate. It's more dry. Moshe, I beat you by the coffee.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to bribe him still, it doesn't work.
What do you want to get?
I'm trying to get a good score on my graduation, you know. Bribe it? Listen, that's the way we survive in Russia. If we didn't schmear, we're not going nowhere. So we used to live in we used to live in Tashkent and Samarkand. But listen, we survived. His father survived in Samarkand. This Americana, it looks Americana, but his roots come from Samarkand. Yeah, hardcore baby. But the weather was nice. It was the best candlelit.
I'm telling you what he used to do.
The best candlelit, grapes, and avalo.
In the Zuma, the Kamaras, the Biscuit.
Yes, because the Kamaras beans.
And in the winter,
The Kamaras, the mosquitoes was the size of a human being.
Kamaras, the Biscuit, and the winter, we would go on the
But there was not such
He
a
was
big.
living on the field.
But it's not Moscow winter. It's cold, but it's not Moscow winter. Listen,
Telling you what he used to do.
listen. You go for one winter in Moscow, then you come to Samarkand. You say, "I'm high." You're gonna start
He
walking.
was starving. He had no clothes. You know what I mean?
No. In Tashkent, Samarkand, there was still bread and fruits. And bread.
Not where he was.
Yeah,
Afghanistan.
yeah, because Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan.
The problem is they were selling all the food to the front.
He went to the army to try to get into the army. Since what Columbus says, he went there, suddenly they threw him out. He said, "When do you come here? What do you get out of here?"
Tell me where you learn this like you learn Russian.
Huh?
You learn Russian. Yeah.
Huh? No.
People like that are love to me. For sure, whoever survived, they knew my day. And then they had over 3,000 people living in his house. And then it was underground businessman. You know.
Those years, he told me he used to sell. He used to give it to
Yeah, bread. My mother got arrested for it, but pieces of bread,
He used
9
to
months.
he used to.
Retire? Or his name Rochus?
Listen, my mother was shown got arrested.
Administrator.
Okay. Okay, we have to do the grounding. My mother got arrested for 2 pieces of bread, 9 months. 9 months. They stole 2 pieces of bread. My mother was arrested for 9 months. And that's not. That's in Uzbekistan. That's.
Lucky she got out after 9 months.
Yeah, she was 16 years old. 17 years old.
Oh, that's good.
So they would throw bread on the street like. Today we have to be on a diet. We don't want to eat bread. No.
No carbs.
Listen, if you tell somebody you had a single of bread, I mean, like this was not war. There was war was still talking about bread. So in Uzbekistan, they were used to eat the Uzbek bread. You were there? Safe. You can go. If you went 1,000 miles closer to Moscow, I basically went Leningrad from Petersburg from Moscow. It was for 3 years the Germans surrounded. So they were cooking shit in the bottoms of the river. If you could do that,
From what's wrong, I'll get this upstairs. Tons upstairs.
and the reason they did it because the Russians survived the cold, and they were dying. The Germans were dying, and then they attacked. So for 3 years, you couldn't let Leningrad succeed. Listen, there's no food. They couldn't break food. They couldn't cross it because the army was still strong. No. Especially if you talk to a 14 years old boy or a 22 years old boy, he says in his own life, you Jews, you always lie. You know, I want Africa. To understand the pain that I'm I promised them coffee, Starbucks, if he stays for Citizen.
Ah, dein Chava.
Yeah. Let's come back. No, come on, let's go.
Was tut er da?
He says he comes home and he only comes in my wife.
It's an honor to have you. The Olam Atanagat. It was a beautiful event, yeah? With Hazar Rosh Yeshiva. I didn't know your Rebbetzin was a Sorotskin. I didn't know your Rebbetzin was a Sorotskin. I didn't know your Rebbetzin is a blaze of Sorotskins. So we won't be the willst. Oh, I know you like to have the view. You want a view because Facebook.
I have mine verweten dat de clip dat steek is van alles strand without strand.
Curious Yoyo.
There's tons over there.
What's your comment? Tijd verbrengen de gave.
With the white shirt, Libby?
Last day.
Get it in a minute.
Okay. So you getting him a Starbucks?
Yeah.
Geweldig.
Then you're getting two Starbucks.
Okay.
Not everybody's on WhatsApp. You want to announce Thursday night?
Oh yeah, I will. I will do it right now. Let me just shut this off. A good chodesh, everybody. A freiliche chodesh. Good morning, bruchim abayim. I want to welcome Reb Label Brown here. Sinish Pashat. We hear you always, but we don't see you. I want to welcome. We have with us the Rosh Yeshiva of Skokie, Rosh Yeshiva of the Skokie Yeshiva, Hagar Reb Avram Friedman Shlita, Chicago. Skokie Yeshiva is one of the very prominent yeshivas of Chicago and the United States of America. We're honored to have the Rosh Yeshiva here with us. And we have some valedictorians from Kiryas Yoel, Monroe. We want to welcome them. And everybody in between. So it's Mamash ganz Klal Yisrael. Yeah. No. And everybody else, of course. Just Panam Chadashas. Can we machen Sheva Brachas? Should bring in the Chosen Kalam and can machen Sheva Brachas. I want to thank Reb Aaron. Writes every day an outline of the Shir in English, and he posts it on the yeshiva.net on the video page of the Shir. So if you ever want to remind yourself, he writes every day an English outline of all the discussions. Almost every day. Thank you, Reb Aaron. And Reb Israel Engel writes every day a transcript in Hebrew of the Shir. He actually started because there's a Jew in Eretz Yisrael who listens or watches and they don't understand the perfect English. So he wrote it up for them in Hebrew. So when I found out, I said, maybe he could post it. So now it's posted every day on the yeshiva.net, a transcript of the Shir in Lashon Kodesh in Hebrew. Auf Yiddish, stuff, Yiddish. We have English and in Hebrew, so I want to thank both of them. That's why he sits here with a laptop. You shouldn't be choshed that he's selling stocks or buying stocks. Oh, halavai. Or surfing the web. V'chuli v'chuli. He's Pashat writing. Huh? Yeah. He's buying the real stock and he's selling the real stock. Torah is the best as chayre, like the Baba used to say. Maybe you could do the Yiddish. So I want to thank them both. One more thing. Tomorrow morning I'm not here because I'm in Toronto tonight. So tomorrow morning I'm not here. Tomorrow night, Thursday night, since Shabbos is the 25th yard site of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So tomorrow night we're having here in the tent a big gathering of Chizuk and of Abrengen with myself and Rabbi Dov Ber-Pinson, with food and music. Right here, 20 men and women. There'll be a mechitza for women and children. Everybody's invited. The whole community is invited. 7:30 p.m. Everybody is invited. The back here, where I give the women's class. That's tomorrow night, Thursday night. Kulam muzmanim. Okay. But tomorrow morning, please tell the Chevra that there's no shir, okay? Because I'm in Toronto. So we'll continue. So today is Wednesday. Monday we explored the Ava from Mamala Kalalman. I hope you still remember. The love of the self, the ultimate self. And yesterday, Tuesday, Parshas Korach of Tasivim, we tried to touch, I don't want to say explored, but we tried to touch the Ava of, that Ava, it's rooted in Seiv of Kalalman, which is rooted in the essence, beyond just the expression and the condensement of the energy that allows for the self to emerge. And it's a whole different magnitude, a magnitude of love. So now, let's go back inside. Now, I just have to say the obvious, these are very deep concepts. They're not always easy to grasp because it's a certain way of thinking, of adjusting your mind, of tuning into it. So it's important to review it, to chazer it, to internalize it, to think about it, to be sich, like he always says, to be sich mizbeinen in it. Sometimes you have to hear something a few times. I had the privilege of learning Likkutei Torah for many years before I gave the shiur. So there was a Yid once who said, he says, it's always mamale, mit soivev, it's always the selbe Sache, weiter mamale, weiter soivev. I said, my feeling is punkt verkehrt. How much he talks about soivev, I want him to say more. He says, Zag mer. It's always, as much as he talk about mamale, say more. Every time he reveals something about mamale, soivev, and it was Zag mer. Because it's really... Yeah.
I'm thinking how much it is, but exactly what you're already saying about how it's so great to keep going and learning more about it. So I was thinking that Mickey Mantle, if I wanted to learn the gap, I would tell someone, Mickey Mantle, he hits a lot of home runs. There's this stick and there's this ball, and all you gotta do is, he just swings it and hits the stick with the ball. And the guy goes, oh, now I got it, It's not like something.
Very good. Very good. Okay. For those who are listening virtually, Rabbi just described that Mickey Mantle's ability was not just to take a ball and a stick, and to take the stick and to hit the ball. That's not how you describe baseball, right? There's much more, yeah. Yeah. So I'm just saying, don't, these things need chazara and hisbaininus and internalization and personalization. The most important application, there's chachma, there's bina, there's das. Okay, so weiter inside, 84, on top it says shlach. The line starts va'avezu. That's probably 15 lines from the bottom. Va'avezu. Va'avezu mebchina sevev kalalman lo tishtane la'oila machmas aves achedes b'shum oif. The uniqueness of this love is no other love will ever cancel it out. Mamale kalalman is an ava that consciously could be canceled out by other loves. I'm crazy about you today. I'm crazy about other things tomorrow. We see it all the time in human relationships. How many people get married, and if you tell them, are you in love? Oh, we fell in love. The problem is you fell in love, you didn't climb in love. Yeah. you fell in love, you got to climb in love. But by definition, I'm just giving this as a mashal, Dibra Torah Lashon Nadam. What's the gather of mamale? I feel it. That's what makes it mamale. What is mamale? What did we explain, right? It's that which I feel, which I experience. It makes me me. It's the chiyus, the life that I can recognize. It's the water that becomes identified by the cup, and not as two separate things. But that's my electricity. I call it my own. That's why you can even deny that it comes from the source of Hashem. Why are there so much atheism in the world? Because the electricity of the body is so one with the body, they could say there's nothing else. There's just a machine here with electricity. And when you die, it's just the electricity is gone, and then you become fodder for the worms. Even though it's all Dvar Hashem, it's a neshama, it's a spiritual chayas. But the mamale is so successful. It's so successful that you can already detach it from its source. That's how effective, that's how internalized it is within the vessel. So it's all about my experience of it. And because it's about my experience of it, when there's no experience, or when there's opposite experiences, it can cancel out the love consciously. So the Ava of Soiviv, he says, no other love in the world will ever be able to obliterate it. Because it's not rooted on how much you experience consciously. It's rooted in the essential relationship of oneness that is actually beyond your conscious brain and your conscious ego and your conscious experience. He says, nothing can change it. Machbas avas acheres. And I think we see this mamish in a relationship. Again, I'm just giving a mashal to be able to apply it more. If I want to say there's a marriage or a relationship that's only mamale, it's missing soiviv. What's pshat? In other words, the reason we're connected is because I feel the connection. The problem is, in 3 years, you may not feel the connection. There may be other connections that come into your life. There may be other things going on. And what often happens is, it's like, we don't feel anymore and it's time to move on. And this happens constantly in the world, constantly. What's Soiviv Kalam? And Soiviv Kalam means that there's a relationship that's deeper than I. Say it in simple English, it's an unwavering commitment to the sacredness of the marriage institution. It's an unwavering commitment to the value of the relationship, the value of a marriage, to the value of a family. It's of course I want to feel it, I want to enjoy it. It's very important. Mamala Kalaman is important. But the point is that there's something that transcends my experience of the marriage. Can you have that? When one doesn't have that, the marriage is much more vulnerable. You fall in love and you fall out. You fall in, you fall out. You fall in, you fall out. And we see it constantly, all the time. What holds it is something that will not be cancelled out. Okay, so you're not experiencing. So you're going through a rough patch. Yeah, there's some struggles that have to be done. Sometimes it's unbearable. Sometimes it's a very serious or difficult situation. You know, there is a concept of a marriage not working out. We all understand that. But I'm saying every marriage, or so many marriages, go through some very, very difficult patches for whatever reason, whether it's him or her or both of them together, or usually the dynamics. It's not even him or her, it's just the dynamics, the space in which the interplay has to happen. So even in the human metaphor, we can understand this difference. On this, the pasuk says in Shehashirim, "Mayim rabim lo yuchlu lechabes es ha'ava." The multitudes of waters, raging waters, cannot extinguish love. Why not? If you have a fire burning, it could be a huge fire, but if you have mayim rabim, it's going to extinguish the flame. The pshat is here the oisius. Me'achar she'ena mislabeshes toich kli. Since it's not an ava that is enclosed in a vessel, it's not contained. The ava of Mamalik Halalman, what's its inyan, what's its definition? That it's melubish in a keli. It's enclosed in a vessel, in my vessel. That's its beauty, that's its power. It's the love of ultimate self, which is aligned with the true self, with Hashem. The way his energy is manifested in a keli. Because it's defined by a keli, it can also be eclipsed, or it can be cancelled, or it can be repressed, or it can be challenged, or it can be replaced. But the Ava, Mitzat Soiviv Kalalman, is not melubish in a keli. Because it's not melubish in a keli, the fact that the keli gets dirty will not cancel out the love. What allows me to experience mamala is my experience of it. And therefore, if my experience becomes tainted or tarnished, or something can happen, it can spit out the water, it can expel it. I'm not a keli for you anymore. You know, sometimes different things happen. I'm not feeling it, I'm not containing it anymore. But if it's not defined by the keli, so therefore, the keli also won't be a contradiction to it. It won't destroy it, it won't obliterate it. And And there's nobody who doesn't have this love. Every single person, Lefum Shura Delay, according to his Shir, has this love. You can ask, what's the Lefum Shura Delay? If it's Mamale, I understand it's Lefum Shura Delay, because it's based on the Keli. If it's Soiviv, what's the Lefum Shura Delay? It's Cheshtach Shir. The whole Inyan is that it's Soiviv is everywhere B'Shava. But it's interesting. Even Soiviv, he says, Kol Chad Lefum Shura Delay. Every person according to his own Shir. Yesh Lebchinas Avazu. I guess.
On the subconscious level.
You see that Soiviv has some shaykh.
L'chayr is Soiviv, the Lefum Shura Delay. It's not Shura Delay. But here he says, Lefum Chomaytcha. The pshat is, we spoke yesterday. Yesterday's mamale, yesterday's soiviv becomes today's mamale. I told you from the Brisker Rav about Amunah, right? The Mashiach comes, will also be Amunah. Today's Amunah becomes tomorrow's knowledge. And the Amunah tomorrow is much deeper. And then the next day, that becomes Yediyah. So that's the Lefum Shura Delay. In other words, somebody's for what by one person is soiviv is by another person mamale. Relative to his kalim. Person has different kalim. Yeah, you can't compare a cup of 7 ounces to a gallon, to a keli of 100 gallons. So that's one akuda. Yeah. Ah. But l'chayda here he's saying more than that, because he's saying everyone from Shurdalay has this ava. He's talking about this ava itself. Yeah. But l'chayda, what he means from Shurdalay is not be'etzem, how much access there is to it, how much it's manifested, how much it's revealed. L'chayda, that's the kavanah. Yeah.
Soiviv is something that I can accept, but I can't really understand. Once I start understanding or tapping into it more, then it becomes mamale, because that's now it's contained now within me.
Yeah. You know, sometimes an idea, you heard it 5 years ago, it went right over you. 5 years later, you get it. You needed much more experience, you needed more maturity, you had to go through another couple of things in life, and then you say, you know what, 5 years ago he told that to me. It was like, ooh, right over me. Because everyone hears things from where they are. Sometimes the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, Ad arbayun shnin loikoi inish adaita de Rabbi. We learned it in V'yadaita, right? It could take 40 years for you to understand your Rebbe. 40 years. You're sitting 40 years. 40 years later, not that you didn't understand anything, you understood, but you didn't understand what he was really saying. So sometimes you can hear something for 40 years. 40 years later, you go back to what you heard 40 years ago, and you get a whole different understanding of it. And it's not because you didn't try to understand. It was just how much you were open to, how much you were capable of understanding. Yeah. I'm saying, but something is 40 years later. Ad kadei kach. Also, of course. Yeah. There was a chassid of the Balatanya. He was the Rav of Chernigov. Chernigov was a very famous city in the Ukraine. His name was Reperetz Chen. He was a child still by the Balatanya, but he was a very well-known Rav, a big gon. A lot of the Chen families are from the dynasty of Reperetz Chen, Chernigov. So he once described this word here. He said in Yiddish, it was just an expression. Dorten Darten vu Edelkeit. I don't remember verbatim, but the Teichen was this. Darten vu Edelkeit is nicht kein Keli, is Grabkeit nicht kein Stille. Vu Edelkeit is nicht kein Keli, is Grabkeit nicht kein Stille. Meaning, where refinement doesn't make you into a vessel, the antithesis of refinement doesn't turn you into a contradiction. Mamalik Alman, if the keli is damaged, if there's no keli, there's no oil, there's no light. It's like the refrigerator can't channel the electricity. If something is broken, it's just not, the life is not coming through. The definition of it is that I get it. And if I'm not in a position of getting it, it's not here. If a student is sitting at the shiur and he's exhausted or overwhelmed or stressed or ADD mode or ADHD mode, it's not coming into him. It's not, I'm not going away with anything. You spoke, but I didn't hear what you said. So it's all about the keli. And therefore, it can get washed up, it can get destroyed, it can get canceled. Mayim Rabim could extinguish the love. But the Ava that's rooted in Soiviv, it's not like I'm a keli for it. The I is not a keli for it, because Soiviv is that which transcends completely the I. The reason there's an I is only because of Mamale. Elamai, it's because of a relationship that transcends that I. So a Mela, where the I, even the most perfect I, is not a vessel, it's also not a contradiction if it's compromised. So Mela Mayim Rabim Lo Yuchul Lechabes Asav. And everyone has this Ava. Never doubt it. Kediksiv, this is what the Pasuk says, Va'amich kulam tzaddik. The Pasuk in Yeshayav, Va'amich kulam tzaddikim, that's every single Jew. What do we mean tzaddikim? That he or she is rooted, has this Ava. Uksiv, the Pasuk says in Bereshis, V'hoya la'ois bris beini u'beinechem, uksiv, ki oisi beini u'beinechem, bris oilam. The Pasuk says in Bereshis, Shem tells Avram there's going to be a sign of a covenant, a bris, beini u'beinechem, between you and me. And in Shmois ki sisa, Bat Shabbos, ki oisi beini u'beinechem, bris oilam. A bris oilam. What's pshat bris? It's an eternal covenant that nothing can ever obliterate, can destroy. Pirush ois bris hu b'chinas avazu b'chinas soivav kalam she'eina mislabeshes b'toichechem rak she'oimedes aleichem b'chinas makiv beini u'beinechem. This love of soivav kalalman, from Hashem to the Jew and the Jew to Hashem, it's never manifested in you and therefore defined by your limitations. And therefore your weaknesses will not define it, just like your strengths will not capture it. So even in a weak moment, or even when I'm feeling other stuff, that relationship completely remains intact, because it's a bris oilam. And it's not melubish in you, so therefore it's not vulnerable to your own vicissitudes. Tell Isaac what that is. Thank you. Mishigasin, but vicissitude sounds more sophisticated than Mishigasin.
Oh, for sure. Why does that make it for Amcha Kilim Tzadikim?
I'm sorry?
Why does that make it for Amcha Kilim Tzadikim?
No, in other words, I think what he means is V'amech Kulam Tzadikim, that there's a nekuda of the yeah, so to speak, yeah. And that's why he says Beini u'beinechem. Beini u'beinechem is like, it's the space between you and me. It's that space between you and me. It's not internalized by you in a way that you own it, in the sense that you can also disown it. You know, when I own something, I can also disown it. I can, when I own it, it's beautiful until I don't own it anymore. But soiviv, I don't own it, it owns me. So I can't disown it. And it will not disown me. Sorry. It will not disown me. Huh? The hachana, yeah. That's what we're going to say now. You have to own the hachana. You have to open yourself up to it. But the etzem minyan mayim rabim lo yuchol chabazav. Say, but I'm not in the mood, and I don't believe, and I'm not connected. The I that you identify with is not connected. Okay. The I that you identify with is not connected. Fine. That's how you have to say it. That's the right language. Don't say I'm not connected. The I that I identify with at this moment doesn't feel it's connected. Say it. That's also reality.
That moment
It's a reality. It's a certain prism of reality, which is legitimate. It's not that's also part of it.
At the same time as that reality.
It's like an idea and a realm of ideas. There is a realm of ideas. Inventors very often wake up with the idea.
Yeah.
It's coming down to them.
Yeah.
This thing is like a realm of love. You're not going to be going like, if you want to get the balance of love.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah.
You're more connected.
Yeah.
It sounds like the practicality is just understanding that it's there.
Yeah.
Is that also Mamali though? Once we understand that it's there, it's also Mamali?
I guess that aspect is, but the Nekudir is Soiv, and part of the experience of the Jewish soul is this Ava. As he says, Lefum Shiura delay. But that's part.
That also becomes the Mamali though, no?
No. The fact that somebody else's Soiv becomes your Mamali, that's true. Or yesterday's Soiv becomes today's Mamali, true. But there's always a Nekudah that's beyond that. That's beyond that. It's because it's infinite, yeah. The Zog sehr good. Ganz good. Translate what I said. V'zeh shechazal karu esi yizbarach. No, because sometimes you sit and you play dumb, but I see. V'zeh shechazal, it's a better policy. V'zeh shechazal karu esi yizbarach b'shem HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'loi b'shar shemes v'kinuyim k'goyin racham. That's the reason that the primary title for Hashem among our sages is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And usually not other names or kinuyim are like pseudo-names, different titles. Kegoyin, for example, there's other names. You have Elikim, you have Elikai, you have Shendalad Yud, you have Tzvakos, you have Ekim, you have a lot of different names, right? Shiva Shema Shein Nimchakin in Halacha, 7 names that we're not allowed to erase. But then there's kinuyim. Kinuyim are expressions like Rachum, V'chanon, Rav Chesed, Erech HaPayim, different expressions, Hashem, Kel, Rachum, V'chanon. These are called kinuyim. So, of course, they use it, but usually the name is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Ki kol Hashem is v'kinuyim, heim al shem hishavus ha'pu'ula nemsheches me'ita yizbarach. All the names and the kinuyim are basically descriptions of hishavus, of creation, of the type of activity that is coming from Hashem, that is being generated by Hashem. Afilu Shem Havaya, even the name that's known as the Shem HaMeforish, the Shem HaEtzem, the Shem HaMeyuchad, that's how the Poskim call it, Shem HaEtzem, Shem HaMeforish, Shem HaMeyuchad, in Masechta Shvuos, in Rambam, Hilchos Yesod Yatayra. Even Shem Havaya, who al Shem Mahave Meyayin Liyesh, is also Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is the concept of Yud Hey, and then Vav and Hey is Yahava. From the word Hoiva, which is. Hoya, Hoiva, Yiyah, right? It's all existence. Hishavos is being. To be is called Hishavos. Havaya is that which brings everything into being from a state of ayin, from nothingness into a state of yesh, ex nihilo. So certainly all the other names, whether it's Rachum or Chanan or Elakim, whatever it is, Shemus or Kinuyim, are all denoting or capturing a certain activity that is being generated from him. In other words, it's all in the b'china of Mamalik Halal. Masha'ein kin Shem Kaddish, but the name Kaddish, HaKaddish, what does the word Kaddish mean? Meira al atzmusai. This denotes atzmusai. Atzmusai means the essence. Shehu Kaddish Muvdal. Because the only thing you could say about it is that it's beyond. And that's what Kaddish really means. Kaddish means that whatever it is, it's beyond. Kaddish means something beyond. In other words,
Separate.
I didn't want to use the word separate. Beyond. Because it's not separate. Separate as separate. She'enoi mislabish toich alman. Separate in the sense that any definition of it is not capturing it, but not separate in the sense that it's somewhere, in Mars. Fakert, because of this, there's no place that it doesn't fill, because there's no contradiction to it. So it's the closest thing also. She'einem mislabish toich almen. It's not limited or defined or condensed in the parameters of each universe and its chemistry. All the other names represents the detailed flow of energy of this person or this experience. Even Havaya represents Ishavos, so it's everything. It's Shema Etzem, it's Shema Mavert, but it's the whole Ishavos. It's not an individual detail, but it's the whole concept of Ishavos, which is basically the concretization of reality in terms of a separate identity. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they wanted to use that name because that represents what we're calling Sovev Kalam. It's Kadosh Amuvdal. And it's interesting, in Yiddish, the Baal Shem Tov and his Talmidim, the main name they used to use for Hashem was the Eibishter. The Eibishter. There's Ribono Shel Olam, there's Bashefer, right? There's of course Hashem. But they would always say, what's the definition of Eibishter? What does Eibishter mean? The higher. So what are you saying? Basically, wherever you are, it's the higher. The Eibishter, wherever you are, it's the higher. That's what Kaddish means. Kaddish means wherever you are, it's something deeper. It's something beyond. The Kaddish Baruch Hu, but they added the words Baruch Hu. They could have just said HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, Ein Seif, HaMislabish Toich, Ze'er Anpin De'iyu V'gar Moyichat. It's not the HaKadosh that remains aloof, separate. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the way. The Kaddish ultimately is Mislabish and produces Mamala Kalam. And remember, it's all really one thing. We talk about it in two things. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu means, like the Mishnah says, HaMavrich es HaGefen. Baruch is when something is drawn down, when something is brought, like when you, Mavrich es HaGefen is when you, it's not graft, there's another word for it, Draw. When you draw it. Graft, you graft it into another tree. Drawing is, I draw a part of it, I put it in the earth because I want the sapling to grow. You have in modern Hebrew brecha. Brecha is a pool which draws from a source of water, whether it's a well or a brook. So they call it brecha. Bracha is always to draw something down. When you say, somebody gives a bracha, why are you giving a bracha? What are you trying to do? So the concept of a bracha is, and that's why there's a person who can give a bracha. I mean, every person can give a bracha, but there's brachas and there's brachas. But the real bracha is the ability to be able to see into your potential and draw forth from your own reservoir of energy. Draw it forth, actualize it. Yaakov puts his right hand on Ephraim. So Yosef says, put your right hand on Menashe, he's older. So Yaakov says, no, Ephraim is greater, he needs the right hand. Yosef could have told Yaakov, bless Menashe with whatever you're going to bless Ephraim, and let him get the right hand. The answer is, a bracha can't create a new person. I can't reinvent you. I can help bring out who you are. What you have in your source, we can actualize. Menashe is not Ephraim. Ephraim is not Menashe. Menashe has his own destiny. So Baruch is always to bring it forth. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the synthesis between that which is Kadosh and Muvdal, that which is always beyond and not grasped by the eye, even the highest eye, the spiritual eye, because it's pre the restriction of Mamale, and yet that's Baruch Hu, that it's enclosed. Toich Zod De'iyu V'gar Moyichat is an expression in Zohar. He and his midas are one. Va'ava haba mebchinezu. I'm saying when something is communicated to a new place, to a lower place, it's called bracha. The love that comes from this is also called kedusha, loshen nukva. Kedusha is feminine. Shemekabelas mikadosh. The ava that I experience, that you experience from Sovev Kalaman, is always called kedusha. Kedusha is the feminine element of kadosh. In other words, when you're experiencing the flow of Kaddish, so that is Kedusha. Hashem tells Chava, your tshuka, your desire, your craving will be to your husband. The Kedusha, which is receiving and yearns for the oneness with Kaddish. This love of the Jew, which is called the Ois Bris, the eternal covenant between you and I, Ein Abal is Galus. There's no way it can be revealed, Elai de Krisas Arla. Only by cutting off the foreskin, which covers up Chuli, etc. He doesn't want to specify mamish what it covers up, but the point is it's covering up. In other words, you have to appreciate the nekuda that Hashem makes a bris with Avram. Why does a bris have to have circumcision involved? Make a covenant. Why do you have to cut something? He says because as long as there's a foreskin, an arlo, we can explain what that means. It blocks any ability to have some form of experience or revelation of this ava. Pasuk says, you should circumcise the foreskin of your heart. There's two arlas. There's the arla that we have a bris for, but there's a different type of arla. It's arlas lavavchem, and the two arlas are connected. The heart sometimes has a foreskin, and the foreskin blocks it. It covers it. It's like a mechitza. You have no access to the heart. So the bris is there, essential. But in order to experience the bris, you have to be able to open up the channels. So you have to be able to have the foreskin. That's why, even though you can't create this bris, and you can't undermine it, you can't cancel it, but the preparation for it, that's up to you. Va'arla einay lashon item ela lashon kisui. The real word arla is not just it's stuffed. Usually we say arla means something is plugged. It's a verstopft item. It's plugged. So the real word of arla is a cover-up. Because the problem is not that it's not stuffed. It's not stuffed. It's pure. It's good. There's no plumbing problem. The problem is there's a cover-up, so you have no access to it. So the arla is the foreskin that covers and doesn't allow the source to come out. There's a maimon from the Balatanya, Tovkov Samach Vav. He said it at a bris of his grandson, great-grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek's son, the Baruch Shalom. So there's a maimon. So he said then that very interesting idea. The Rebbeinu Shalom made that the place of the bris is also the part of the body through which a person can procreate. That's the place of the source of life, the tippa, the seed of life, the sperm comes from that place. But we're also created with an arla, with a foreskin. What does this represent spiritually? The source of life of everything is divine. But in life, in the world, there's an arla. There's a cosmic foreskin that doesn't allow us to have access to that source of life. What the bris does is not just a particular circumcision of a child. It allows the child to be able, it removes the foreskin, allowing the child to be able to access the source of life's energy with less cover-ups. So when we remove that individual arla, you're also on a micro level, you're removing the macro arla, because everything is a reflection. You're opening up channels in this child's soul and in the world to be able to be aligned with your own source of life. That's what Yeshua said when they came into Eretz Yisrael. He said it's time for a second milah. Yeah. What's this arlas halev that blocks the ava of Seviv Kalam? V'hu b'chinis avara. Avara shouldn't be translated as evil love, because you're not going to chap what he means. I told you many times the word ra in Lashon Kodesh doesn't begin with evil. The word ra means broken. In Baba Kama you have kaisel ra'ua. What's a kaisel ra'ua? A weak wall, a broken wall. In Koheles you have ra'isi Kol ma shenasa tachas hashemesh ve'im hevel u'ru'us ruach. Ru'us ruach means it's fragmented, it's broken. Everybody is whole. You are whole. When are you whole? When you're part of the whole. When you separate yourself from the whole, right? There was a big birthday cake here yesterday. It's a whole cake. When somebody takes off a piece, now you say, well, I guess you have to if you want to eat it. But it's fragmented. When I detach myself from the whole, that's called Ra. Now I'm broken. Whenever a person feels broken, that's a state of Ra. Because it's not true. You're not broken. You're always one with the whole. But when I experience myself not as one with the whole, when I experience myself as separate, fragmented, broken, that's the source of Ra. When we speak about Ra in the most severe term, it's the ultimate result of being broken. It's the ultimate result of being separated. When somebody, for example, harms another person, chas v'shalom, shvichas damim, the worst sin, murder, what is that? It's the ultimate sense of brokenness. You completely don't recognize your oneness with another person. You could take their life. You completely don't recognize your oneness with a higher reality. All these types of things. So the question is how broken? But all Ra begins with a sense of brokenness. And therefore, Avera means a broken love. What's pshat broken love? A love that doesn't bring you back to your wholeness. There's two types of loves in the world. There's a love that promotes your wholeness, and there's a love that promotes your brokenness. You know, just like in, say, in people's relationships, you'll say the reason you love this person is because it's feeding into your toxicity. In other words, it's dysfunctional. And at some point it's going to plot because it's not bringing you closer to who you really want to be and to who you are. On the contrary. That's called all avasras. He says, Avera b'tanugas b'nei adam. Sometimes a person falls in love with all different types of pleasures. Avshu beheter. Even though it may be permissible, it's not forbidden. Rakshu b'chmimus v'islavas atayva. But the person becomes so passionate and so overtaken by their cravings to some form of worldly delight and pleasure. And what that is that dulls your ability to experience your true wholeness. It says in Tehillim, Yegia kapecha kisaychel, meaning you should eat with the toil of your hands, kapayim. Keloimar, sha kapayim yegeyim, you have to work with your hands, or your raglayim, with your feet, or other external organs, beloy leiv. Don't allow your whole heart to be captured by the stress of the office. You have to be in the office with your hands, with your feet, with evarim achitzonim. But don't let it hijack you to the point that you become obsessed with things and that doesn't allow you to remain aligned. What often happens in life is a person becomes so overwhelmed with such a passion. A person needs things from the world. You have to live and live in a good way. But when he says the person becomes overwhelmed with this tremendous passion and his slavos, so this fire of taiva is the arla, it's the foreskin that covers up the true love that you have in your soul. It eclipses it. Va'af hakarim b'teva, even those who are by nature cold-blooded, k'may yoshvei ayhalim, like bookworms. Yoshvei ayhalim is people who love intellect. They like to sit and read. They're usually less social. They're usually less warm. Azavart on yoshvei ayhalim. In other words, they're brainy. They're very brainy. So they're not so emotional. They're not such people's people. Yoshvei ayhalim. They like to sit themselves and read. They're knowledge junkies. So they're much colder. They don't get excited so much. They're more intellectual. They're more cerebral. More cerebral. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. So he says, "Pchinis noilad mohol." Spiritually, that's pshat if you're born circumcised. There's people we know that are born after a bris. I have an uncle, so sein gesund, my father's brother, who was born on Zion Adar, and he was born circumcised, full bris when he was born. Zion Adar, when Moshe was born, the Gemara says Moshe was noilad mol in sight of Atera Isaki Toivu Shanoilad Mol. Stop, I'm telling you, I'm Metzias. So the Baal Tanya says, what's Pshat Noilad Mol? Some people are born with less taiva. Some people are born and their disposition is mole taiva. In other words, a lot of arla there, a lot of cover-ups. It's very easy. Some people are not, they're born with a more fine disposition, more edel disposition. It's not easy for them to get overwhelmed and gluttonous. They're not the addiction type. You know what I mean? They're less passionate. They're just less, but everything they're less passionate. It's different types. It's called noilad mol. So he says, Afal pikein srichim lahatif dam bris. The halach is, if somebody's born mohol, they don't get over the hook. You have to do hatafas dam. You got to prick. You have to still allow the dam bris. Why? Was ist schlecht? You don't have an oila. So he says, Lamayit chelboi v'damoi, lamayit hanas v'tzorchi gufa moinem avoid. Even if you're noilad mol, so the arla may not be as passionate. You're not the addictive type. But ultimately, if a person doesn't work on themselves to live a life of connection with truth, so then the various pleasures, even though it's tzarchi gufa, it's not evil things. We're not talking about evil, bad addictions. It's the regular day-to-day. Could be eating supper. But when a person eats supper, they can forget the pnimius of the world. It's such gluttony, you know. It's called in Yiddish zoifen. You know what zoifen is? Huh? Zoil v'soiva. Yeah. Yeah, fressing. It's alles kosher. You went to fireside, wherever. Huh? Yeah, the drinking, in other words, it's Mahadrim and a Mahadrin. It's Rabbi Landau's Hechsher. Huh? So Rabbi Landau's, but it's not the Nekuda. The Nekuda is that moment, the Einoid Mulvada can't be felt. You're in a different place. You fall into an arla. The Soiviv is not going to go away. It's there. But you know how when you eat a heavy meal and you can't breathe for a few hours, you can't feel emotions? Yeah? You know what I'm talking about? Guy goes to a restaurant, he eats 9 courses, he comes out, you want to call the Chevra Kadisha, he barely can breathe, he says, that was a good Suda. Because I can't breathe. And for 3 hours, there's nobody home. There's no emotion because you're stuffed. Over there, Arla is Takeloshin item. You're stuffed up. But what just happened? What happened was you went out of your zone. You're not in the zone of oneness. And there was a reason for it. You had a void. There's a reason we're gluttonous. There's a reason we go to addiction. People are not. We have a void, and I have to fill that void. And I fill it, this one through drinking, and this one through websites, and this one through food, and this one through other things. Why do I have a void? Because I feel broken. Because I'm in a state of Ra. I'm broken. If I would feel whole, I may have pain, but not a void. Void means there's an emptiness, there's a hole. Why do you have a hole? I'm broken. I have a hole because I'm not whole. I have a hole with H-O-L-E because I'm not whole, W-H-O-L-E. Because I'm missing the W, the we. I didn't say weed, I said we. Yeah. Atazoi. Lamayit chelbei v'damei, to challenge the dam, yeah.
Since it's a pinna, he doesn't realize.
Right.
So there's a line.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So it's even someone who's born with the perfection, sort of.
Yes, ataza. Even though I'm born an edel, some people are just edel. They're more edel. You know what I mean, yeah? He calls it noilad mol. You're born mol. It's not just physically. You're born with a psah. That's why the bris with Avram Avinu comes with a condition. You have to be mal the arla. Because the more a person is mal the arla, the more they can feel and experience the true ava of Seivav Kalalman. It's there, but you may not have access to it because I am completely covered, verstoppt and covered up, verdeckt by my arla.
Arla is the taiva.
Yeah, the arla is the intensity of the taiva, the intensity of the passion That's a broken passion. It's not a passion. A passion to Elikus, a passion to Emes, a passion to Pnimius. Those are the great passions. Those are passions that are part of your wholeness and promote wholeness. And then there's passions that are substitutes for that. It's always a question if I'm going to the substitute, if I'm going to the core. On this, the pasuk says in Mishlei, Mitz chalav yoitzi chema. V'abru razal b'miata moitzi chema shel toire b'mi sheheki chalav sheyonak. Oh, there's a pasuk in Mishlei. This is a very powerful word. The pasuk says in Proverbs, Shlomo Melech says, Mitz chalav yoitzi chema. Mitz apayim yoitzi dam. And I think mitzkas yoitzi riv. You ever made milk? You ever made butter for milk? Your mother ever made butter for milk? You saw? Yeah. In Samarkand you made butter out of milk, yeah. So the milk has to curdle into butter. It's a whole process. So the pasuk says mitz chalav. As mitz means to mitzitza. Yeah. The extract. Kvetching also, squeezing. The extract of milk, the squeezing of the milk, the processing of the milk will produce butter. Mitzapayim, when you squeeze your nose too hard, it will produce blood, a nosebleed. And he continues, I have to remember the end of the pasuk. We don't have a Mishlei here, right? And he says, and when you, No. I'll take a look. I just want to read you the pasuk. Was?
You have everything in your hand.
Yeah, sorry. Mitzchalav yoitzi chema. Yeah. You squeeze the milk, you produce butter. Mitzaf, you squeeze the nose, yoitzi dam, you produce blood. Mitzapayim, yoitzi riv. No, not kapayim. Apayim is like when you get angry. Mitzapayim, the Metzudas David says like this: the mitzitza, squeezing milk produces butter, squeezing the nose produces blood, and when a person gets angry, it creates a fight, it creates quarreling. Comes the Gemara in Brachas, Daf Samach Gimel, and says, what is Shlomo Melech trying to tell you? Well, where will you find the butter of Torah? Only somebody who spit out the milk that he nursed from his mother. That's what the Gemara says. Brachas Daf Samach Gimel. Mitzchalav yoitzi chema. You got to spit out the milk to find the butter. Where will you find the butter of Torah? Somebody who spit out the milk that he nursed from his mother. What does this mean? What does this mean? What's wrong with the milk that you nursed from your mother? So this is very heavy. The milk that we nurse from our mother is a metaphor for that which we internalize from day one. It's what your mother gave you. It's the milk that I live by. It's a metaphor for that which I'm comfortable with, that which I'm used to, that which has sustained me, which has given vitality. It's who I know. It's who I know myself to be. If you're not ready to spit out the milk of your mother, the chema, the schmaltz, yeah. I don't mean to mean milchiks and fleischiks, but the chema is the smetana, the best of the best, creme de la creme. This is the chema shel Torah, the putter. It's an aristocratic, royal, very rich food, butter, right? A bagel mit putter. A bagel mit butter. Where you going to find the chema shel Torah? Only a person who was ready to spit out the milk of their mother. Meaning, what does it mean? It means in life, independence, and more than independence, the courage to be able to reevaluate everything about myself. The courage to be able to be ready to spit everything out. The courage to be able to say, I really didn't know, or I really didn't figure it out. What often happens in life is the milk that I nursed for my mother, I will never spit out. This will become the barometer by which I measure everything. But the chema shel Torah has to come. That's what the Gemara says. B'misha heiki chalav sheyanak. Medaf ois shpayin. I don't want to use the word vomit. Huh?
His whole life, I mean, you realize 7 years later, what you said,
It's not easy. It's not easy. I don't remember. It's the concept of tshuva, but it's not. We're not talking of tshuva on Aveda. We're talking about that ability to be able to let go. Yeah. Yeah, Shimon Hamsuni, very good. Yeah, tremendous.
So why do we say that he has to vomit it out? It seems to me a pejorative in a sense. He has to lower himself. He says he has to reduce himself to something
Yeah.
that he has to make himself with
Yeah.
this process. It seems to me that I don't understand the concept of just churning the milk in order to make butter. It's a keeper. Isn't it? Maybe I'm mistaken.
Right, I'm not spitting out the milk because I want to get rid of the milk. It's because I want to, what is it called, churning? Churning. I wanted to churn it into butter. That's the point. The point is not the vomiting. The transformation. The point is transformation.
Is it like in order for the snake to grow, it has to shed its skin and then
Yeah. The lobster, no? Lobster and others, they want to grow, but they have a shell. And you have to shed it. And it's very vulnerable when you shed it because this is your protective mode. And the moment you shed it, you're open for prey. That's why I think they go on the rocks. They do it on the rocks. It's very interesting. But only then can you develop a new shell, which is much bigger because your body is growing. And then the lobster gets irritated again, and it sheds it again, and a new one grows. And that's how it is. So if I'm not ready to shed, but what are we talking here about? Not nanim chitzonim. The chalav she'anak mishtayima, in other words, the milk that made me grow. And when I was a child, that gave me life, that sustained me. And yet, if I want to get to the butter, I have to be able to say goodbye. Goodbye to that milk. What's the greatest obstacle for real transformation? Vulnerability, comfort zone, and my real inability to oispayen, to spit out everything that for me was like everything. This is who I am. This is how I'm known. This is my reputation. This is my resume. This is how Google knows me.
Isn't that an amputation of one's being? To say that
Right.
you
Yeah.
the whole process before? That a person shouldn't walk away from it? You say that we should.
Of course, we're talking in a healthy way here. There's a very big difference. If you're doing it out of guilt or because you hate yourself, then so we're not talking about that.
No, but I'm saying
That's another addiction. That's a spiritual addiction.
this is not a mutation. This is like you said, a
Transformation, yeah. Why did the Gemara use from everything chema? So he says, "V'inyan hachemahu k'may lamashul shamnunis hatzof al hachalav." The chema is the shamnunis, the smetana in Yiddish, the fatness, the cream that flows over the milk. It flows over the milk. What the Gemara calls chema shel Torah is the ava of Soivav Kalalman that's not mixed in the milk. It flows above the milk because it's not melubish in a keli. That's the chema. The chema is that choicey part that flows above, because it's not limited by the keli. How can you find the chema of Torah? The chema of Torah is the shamnuniyus of Torah. The smetana of Torah that flows above the milk. And Torah is compared to milk, but it flows even above the milk. He says, for this, I have to be able to spit out the chol of shayonak mishnayimai. That's the arla. Sometimes that milk becomes my arla, becomes my trap. I was noilad mohul, I was noilad after bris. I still need a toughest dambris. Because it's all of the cover, in other words, every single cover up in life. Anything that's happening in your life that's covering something, that's blocking truth, becomes an arla. And it doesn't allow you to experience the bris oilam in a genuine way. If you want the chema, I have to be able to challenge even those things that are not bad. It's the milk of my mother. But the milk of my mother is entrenched very deep into me. And that's a metaphor, of course. Huh? Torah Simecha, yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's the milk. That's the milk. Why? Not because it's not there. The chem is there. It's there. But it flows above the milk. You want to transform it, churning it into chema. That's a whole new process. And that process requires from the person to be able to look at their life and to challenge and prick through all the foreskins that cover up that which is in the pnimius. And b'meila, a person has to be able to challenge it. A person has to be able to discipline himself in it, because whenever it exists, it will create a blockage. And if it creates a blockage, the person will not be able to become one with that pnimius. So you could look through your own life, I could look through my own life. You look at your schedule, and you see, where are those foreskins in my life? Where are those arlas? When do they take over? Because if you can master them, if you can master those arlas, and you could remove them at least somewhat, what happens is, it allows you to become the true person you are. Not only Mamale, he's talking here even the union of Saivav. Okay. Please remember, tomorrow morning there's no shir. And tomorrow night we have a big fabrengen in the tent. Have a wonderful day, a good chodesh, everybody. We're going to continue now with the Gemara Psachim. Huh? Oh, I say there. You're right, there, sorry. You're right, you're right. No, you happen to be right. I know you don't want to, but you happen to be right. If you would want to be right, you probably wouldn't be right. No, there was... Bruchim Abayim. How lange Zeit nicht gesehen? So bist du da Eilach.
Exactly what and the reason is because the next zone is the fear zone, that's where all the fears reside.
Reb Moshe, I think it's like a Morris.
And the third zone is the learning zone. Learn new things. Then you get to the success zone. You gotta go through those four zones. Most people get stuck in the comfort zone and then the fear zone.
Comfort zone, fear zone, learning zone, and success zone. Growth zone. Yes, this is up. There's the comfort zone. You don't want to get out of it because you're going into the fear zone, the unknown, which allows you to go into the learning zone, the growth zone, which is churning the milk into butter, and then you get to success zone. Yeah. Avada, but it's different. Yeah, but even within that, so to speak, Avada.
Moshe Rabbeinu geht nicht durch Speide Bilder. Moshe Rabbeinu geht durch Speide Bilder. Er gesagt von dem Ritzke.
Hat nicht gesagt.
Ich sage, am Hof hat
Hat nicht gewollt sagen. Moshe didn't want a nurse from an Egyptian milk because of this. That's why Miriam brought his mother. Huh? Cholov sheyanak mishdei imay.
I'm going to Starbucks and I buy Chul B'Shmul. Comes a guy, he says Chul B'Shmul.
But Reb Label turned the milk into butter.
That's the next thing.
The nosebleed, yeah. The Vilna Gaon in Mishlei over there has a beautiful interpretation on the pasuk. He says that there's 3 reasons why people argue with other people, and they try to convince them that they're right and the other person is wrong, and that's what the pasuk is talking about. He says like this. I saw once. He says when somebody criticizes you, or somebody says mecharfe, somebody curses you or attacks you, we have this instinct that to get into an argument, to start fighting back. So he says there's 3 reasons. One is you want to basically reclaim your dignity. You want to show that you're feeling down, and you want to come back up. You want to show the person, no, you're good and you're much better than him. Yeah. Number 2 is you want to prove him that he's a liar. You want to prove that he lied. And number 3, you want him to stop. So he says that's where people get into fights and arguments. So he says the first one who wants to show that he's better than the other person, he says, you're barking up the wrong tree. He says, look how they make milk from butter, the Vilna Gaon says. The first thing is you always have to cover the keli with the milk. When you make butter, you can't keep it open. If you keep it open, it's not going to happen. So he says, keep yourself covered. That's the first thing. Mitz chalav yoitzi chema, the chalav has to be covered. Nobody has to know everything about you. You could be discreet. So the second thing is when you try to clean your nose too much, it starts bleeding, and it gets even more bloody. So he said, whenever you try to clean yourself and show other people, show this guy how clean you are. So I'm cleaning my nose. It sometimes gets bloodier. And the third thing is you want to shut the person up. So that's what he says. It creates often more quarrels. Okay, that's how the Vilna Gaon interprets it. But there's different interpretations.
I like Rabbi. I was no Jacobson's the best.
Ah?
I like Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson's the best. His interpretation.
Could you tell my mother-in-law? Kedusha?
Ja.
No.
בדרך כלל זאת מקדושה, זה אוגישייט. Du sucht der Pink verkehrt. זה החיבור. להב פין סויבב.
שמקבלס מקבל.
מבחינה זיף, מבחינה סויבב גרם, ומיקרס קדישה, שני פשוט מקדש. זה גם
Yeah.
צינדה.
Was maßbar sein in der Ksavim. Sollst meidig sein in der Ksavim. In der Ksavim, in der Rishim sollst meidig sein auf da.
For my
Pesach also. It's Zemes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Huh? Yeah? Gewaltig.